Hello, and welcome to the On Vogue Pro Live series. My name is Mary Ellon Ballance, and I am an On Vogue educator and distributor in the United States. I've been doing nails for about 26 years now and using On Vogue products most of that time. I love working with nail techs that are new to gel, helping them with tips and tricks and techniques that work for them, because not everyone works the same. So I like to show you different ways that we can get to the same result. Today, we're gonna go over On Vogue's Builder in a Bottle line. The CBS line is a hard gel and is great for sculpting, overlays, and fills. If you're following along, the products you will need are a builder in a bottle system that you can sculpt with. Not all builder in a bottles can you sculpt with. You'll need some tools for prepping. You'll need some nail forms. And if you're having trouble or having questions that you need answered or help, put your comments below and we'll be right there to help you any way we can answer those questions. So let's get started and can't wait to see what you come up with. Before we get started, I just want to show you a couple tools that you'll need to have on your desk. First off is the cuticle pusher. We're going to use this for gently pushing back the cuticle area. And I do like one that has a little bit of an edge so that you can clear out debris that might have gotten caught in the side walls, giving you a better, cleaner application. Next is our cuticle bits. I use two different sanding bands, two different mandrels. This is a mini mandrel, which is really nice for somebody that has a small, narrow nail plate. It's just a lot easier to get in there and get that product smooth and nice before your next application or your fill. And then I love the bigger regular mandrel, and that's a medium grit as well. I love this for shaping. Before I go in with my file, I will shape and just remove any lumps or bumps that might be in there after your application. Next, these two are the cuticle bits that I use the most. You can see one is a little more narrow. I do like the round top because that's a safety top. When I'm using these, I'm usually running these at about 14 to 15 RPMs. Nippers are important. Make sure that they're sharp. Make sure that your jaws are straight. If you have a bent one, and I'm just gonna show you, this is one that I keep as an example. And see how that's bent? You never wanna use anything like that on your client. So just make sure that you check your jaw on your cuticle nippers periodically and make sure that they're nice and straight, so that if you're nipping off that cuticle, you're not causing your client any discomfort. And most important when sculpting is you need to have a pair of stork scissors, because when you're going in there to customize these forms, you're gonna need a pair of scissors to really make sure that you're getting a nice custom fit with your forms, and these make it a lot easier. Okay, I've prepped this hand. We're gonna sculpt these. I'm gonna use one of our opaque colors. It's the Builder in a Bottle Opaque. We're gonna use blush. And this one I'm going to show you a quick fill, but before we get started, we need to prep these nails to get them ready for our services. So I'm just going to gently, with my pusher, gently just push back that cuticle just enough to break it off of the nail plate. So I'm just barely putting a little pressure there to push that back. Sometimes people have a thicker, cuticle grows thicker on their nail plate, so you have to be super careful. But that's one of the benefits of using an e-file, because the e-file will help you remove that effectively without hurting your client. I'm going to go in first with my mini mandrel. This mini mandrel is great for people with a smaller nail bed or nail plate. When you're working with your e-file, you want to make sure your speed and pressure is just right. You don't want to put too much pressure that you cause friction and heat from the e-file. So I'm just barely touching her nail plate. I'm running actually at about 16, and I'm hardly having to put any pressure on her nail, so she's not going to feel any uncomfortable heat from the friction of the e-file. I'm using a medium sanding band, and I'm just cleaning up around the edges. And you just want to make sure you really remove all the shine and get that nail ready for product. The next thing I'm going to use is a diamond bit, and it's got a safety edge, so it's got that round edge at the end of your bit. That's going to help you to get into that cuticle area without putting any kind of lines or any kind of damage to the nail plate. It also keeps you from causing any damage to their cuticle area, as you're going to be in that cuticle area with that. And I'm pushing more into the cuticle than I am pushing down on the nail plate. You don't want to really be touching much of the nail plate. We're just kind of pushing in more so. And we're getting that cuticle that grows right on the nail plate and removing that so we have a nice clean application. The other nice thing about this is where you have hard spots on your corners here of the nail, you can very easily go in and exfoliate that skin off of there and give it a softer feel and appearance. So again, just really pushing more in than down. And every now and then you'll see you'll get a little piece of skin that's hanging up, as they used to say, was standing up and waving at you. I prefer to use my cuticle nippers for that. Some people feel comfortable doing it with the e-file, but I prefer to just nip that off. So I'm just gonna very gently lift up that part that's, and I'm gonna check the others, make sure that I don't have anything hanging up on those. I'm just going to clean this nail plate so we have a nice clean surface to work on. And then you should have a nice chalky white finish when your nail plate's clean there. And then we're going to get ready to apply our forms. So there's a couple different ways to apply a form. And when you're using forms, you want to make sure you're using a form that has a lot of structure, that's not too flimsy, because you want to make sure that that form stays in place while you're working. I'm going to tap these two corners because you want to make sure that these two corners are even. If they're not even right, then your C curve won't be straight. The reason I like to do that first is because now I can open this like this, and now I can use my fingers to open and close this and put it on the way I want. Now I can guide that in there. I want to make sure that this line is going down the middle of the nail. And now I can close this off. My corners are already together here, so I know my C curve's straight. And then we're gonna just make sure that you squeeze that together all the way under. And now that form is on there tight. It's not going anywhere. And you have a nice flush application that you're gonna get a nice clean look on that nail. And now we'll go ahead and do the other two. Again, we're tapping these two off. Open here. Lines down the center. And there we go. Now that's the way I like to do it. I have seen people do it different ways. You don't have to tap those corners off. You can do it this way where you're gonna roll it a little bit and get a little bit of a bend in there. And then, but same kind of concept. Once you have your line down the center, you're in the corners, and then come here and tap it off. But now you have to really make sure you get those on there straight. And see, this is why I like to go ahead and put those on there, those tabs on there first, because look, see, they're off. So again, figuring out which way works for you is most important. So if it works better for you to do it the way I just did it and you're able to line those tabs up, then, you know, do it that way. But there are other ways. Again, I'm gonna line up my tabs. I'm barely tapping them, just enough to hold. And then I'm gonna slide it under the two corners. Line down the center, and now I can secure that form on there. Now, these forms have lines down the side. If you can see the lines down the side, sometimes you need to cut to relieve some tension on the sides, and you would just take your scissors and just lightly nip those right down the side. And you want to go out in a diagonal line, and then you can fit that up in there a little tighter if you need to. Next up, we are going to use our Simply Super Bond. It's a air dry adhesive. This does not need to go in the light. You're just going to put this on very thin layer and just let that air dry. And what this is doing is just making your nail just a little bit more tacky, and it's going to help with lifting, or make sure that you have your nail prepped. You don't have to use the Super Bond. I've just worked it into my system and my process because it just is just that extra added adhesion for the nail plate, just to eliminate a little bit more chance of lifting or popping of the nail. So this is a 3-step system. We have a connect, a build, and a shine. So I'm going to use my connect first, and I'm going to use just a little bit. So I'm really going to wipe off most of the gel from the brush. So I have a really dry brush, okay? And I'm just going to work that right into the nail plate. And just scrubbing it right into that nail plate. And it really mainly only needs to be on the natural nail part. This one where I already have product on there, I don't necessarily need to pull it all the way to the end. But if it makes you feel better to have it all the way to the end, you can. But it's more important that it stays on the nail plate. And again, make sure that you're not in the cuticle area. You never want to flood the cuticle area with any product. Never be afraid to turn your brush different directions to make sure that you're getting a good application. I'm just making sure it's there because that's where sometimes things kind of lift. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to use our blush build, and I'm going to build out a tip 2 different ways so you can see and figure out which way works best for you. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on just the tip. Because builder in a bottle systems are they have a lower viscosity, so they're going to move more quickly, and that can sometimes be super intimidating. So I'm just going to work right now on the tip, and I'm just going to build out my length, just building out my tip so I don't have to worry about it running into the cuticle. And I'm basically just mapping out what this nail is going to look like. We can flash cure this. Go ahead, flash cure that. And the next thing I'm going to do is now I'm going to go all the way to the cuticle and all the way to the tip. And remember, you have to use gel to move gel, and I want to stay connected to the gel. So I'm keeping my brush connected, and I'm just going to brush this all the way to the edge, all the way to the free edge, and make sure that I'm getting it down the cuticle. I'm here a little to the cuticle here, and I'm not using a whole lot, so it won't run too quickly, but just be mindful of how quickly that will move into a cuticle area. And so my final step is going to be building in my strength. So I have a good bit on here, and I'm just going to kind of float this around. So I'm going to start back here, and now I'm going to go side to side, staying connected, but this way I'm able to build up the apex all the way to the tip, and then making sure that I'm not on the cuticle area. And then sometimes you might want to flip it. If you flip it, that will cause the apex to form naturally with gravity. So you can flip it in that way too, and that's going to give you a nice height. Okay, so now we're going to do a full 60-second cure. I'm going to show you how to do a full nail also with our opaque. So the opaque is a soft white. It's really pretty. That's a really pretty look. You can chrome over it. You can add glitter to it, anything just to add to it if you'd like. But we're going to do this on the index finger. And this time, instead of starting with the tip, I'm going to start with a map layer, and I'm going to go all the way from here to here, from the cuticle area to the end of the free edge. Now this is, if you're feeling comfortable working with a fast moving gel, you may like this. I'm okay with doing this way, but when I first started working with low viscosity gels, I like doing the tip first. And again, you have to stay connected to the gel. Make sure your brush is connected to the gel that's on your finger. So we're going to flash cure that. But see how quickly that moved? Now, this is where people get frustrated. Make sure you got to trust the process here. We're going to file that. So don't worry that it went over a little bit farther than what you wanted. That's okay. And then we're going to go right down the center. Okay. And this is just another technique. There's different ways to get the same result. Okay, go ahead and flash cure that. And when you flash cure, all you're doing is really just stopping that gel from moving. See how quickly it moved again? But that's okay. Don't get nervous. Sometimes you're not able to get it. Don't be afraid to take a striper brush and just kind of push it into that area where you need it. And we can pull it down just like that. And again, don't worry about this. We're going to get that off with our file and go ahead and do a full 60-second cure. Now, for this nail that we're going to fill, this has everything. We're all good right here. We're just going to go in with our blush and start at the cuticle because we already have product here. So we don't need to add any more product to that end. We're just making sure that we're filling back here in the cuticle area. And what I like to do is put it down and then I like to push it and then pull it back. Because sometimes it's hard with a brush like this to get in those areas. But I can push it and then pull it back. And then again, don't be afraid to take a striper brush and pull down those sides. Put a little bit more there. And it should melt right into it. Now, if you're doing a longer nail, it might take a few more steps to get to where we're at right here because you would have to extend, you could extend that out longer. Okay. And then we're going to cure that. Another color that we have is called Rosé. And the Rosé Build, we also had it in a modeling resin, but the Rosé Build is nice because if you have somebody who has imperfections on their nail plate, this is a great way to be able to hide those imperfections. It's also a great way to do a baby boomer nail. So let's see if we can take our opaque white and we're going to build out our tip. With the opaque. Okay, cure that. Now I'm going to go a little bit farther down, but thin, and I'm going to add a little bit more to get a little bit more of a white look here. And again, don't worry about, you got to trust the process here. I know it's not pretty down here on the sides, but that's okay. We're going to file that out. And then we're going to take our rosé and go to the cuticle. Okay, and then we're going to do our 60-second cure. Okay, so we've done a full cure on all of these, and we're going to go ahead and pop these forms off. Take a no-lint wipe with our Prep and Clean and get that dispersion film off the nail. So it's just removing that tacky layer, and I like to always come away from the cuticle area when I'm doing this. Now we're going to take my sanding band. It's a medium grit sanding band, and I'm going to be running at about 16, 17 RPMs. And again, remember when I told you that trust the process. This is nothing to worry about if you get it down the sides here, because we can take it off with our file. I'm going down towards the cuticle, across the base of the nail plate, and then up the side. And then I'm just going to go all the way to the tip. One even motion. And this is the one that we filled. Same thing. We're going down, across, up, and up. And when I'm teaching, I like to do it like this because I like for people to see the repetitive. Each time I go to each nail, I'm doing the same thing. I'm going down the side, across the bottom, up the other side, and then I use the barrel of my file to go up from the base of the nail plate all the way to the free edge. What I'm looking for when I tilt her finger up like this is any lumps or bumps that might be right here where I can see when I look down the nail plate, and I'm just lightly tapping those to get that out. So last one down, across the bottom, up the side, and then with the barrel. And then I'm ready, after I finish this, to go right in with my hand file. One thing I am particular about when I do a nail is that right here is super flush with the natural nail. I like it to look really natural, and if you get that right there flush, when it grows out, you won't be able to see that grow out. So I'm using the almond file by On Vogue. I love this file. It's my favorite. So now I'm going to be filing in our shape, and she likes this rounded shape. So we are going to just file that shape right in. When you're doing a shape like this, you have to be careful that you're not taking too much in this area right here. That's a stress area where if you take too much product from that, you're going to get cracking. Okay. So as I'm getting my shape, I'm staying off of that and just working that towards the end. This one we don't have to do a whole lot too because we were just filling. And then same thing with our last two. So using a self-leveling or a low viscosity gel is definitely helps with your filing. You shouldn't have to file as much. But after you get practice one way or another, you can get it pretty smooth. But the whole goal of filing with, or filling or working with low viscosity gels is to reduce your file time. And again, this one dripped over quite a bit, but it's not a problem. We're just going to file that right off. And we're still going to get a nice, pretty shape. Don't be afraid to pull the cuticle or the skin away from the cuticle area while you're working. Kind of hard to see with gloves on, but you can see that if you're pulling and using your fingers to pull that skin away, you can get in there and smooth those areas. And I'm using the light to see, make sure all my grains are going the same direction. And if you have where you see a grain here and here, you can see where there's dips. You just have to look, but that's what I'm looking at while I'm doing this. Okay, so I'm going to use our On Vogue buffer, the sponge buffer. I love this buffer. It helps get those, just gives it a nice finished look, especially around here, like I said, with the base. Make sure there's no little sharp edges. And then we're going to take our dust brush and get all that dust off. And now I'm going to just take our prep and clean one more time and just clean that nail plate just to make sure we got all the dust off before we put our top coat on. This shine is a no stain, it is a no wipe. It's my favorite top coat. It just shines the nail up so pretty, and it's just easy to work with, super smooth. But again, I'm gonna, just like I did with the other, I'm gonna kind of push it into the cuticle area without touching the cuticle area, just to get a nice clean application. Make sure you're capping your free edge. And we're gonna do all 4 nails. Again, this is another time where you can use your light line to make sure that you have a nice, clean, even look. This is, again, a no wipe, no stain, and this is a 60-second cure. So we're all finished. We've got our baby boomer look, just a fill. This was an extension with the blush, and this is an extension with the opaque. So the best way to finish a service, always after you've been filing and working on your client, is to make sure that you finish with cuticle oil. I love this cuticle oil. You're just gonna put it right on that cuticle and rub that in. Now, if they wanted color or whatever, you would have done that before your shine. And just rub that in their cuticles and make sure that you've got it all in there nice and good. So there you go. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Love to hear what you think, and can't wait to see what you guys create. Thanks so much for watching. We hope you learned something new, and leave us some questions below in the comment section, whether you're watching it now and we're answering as we went along, or you have some questions in the future. You can check out all of the On Vogue trainings in this series right here on this YouTube channel. And if you want to learn even more about our On Vogue products, you can go to our On Vogue Pro platform. These are quick courses that are broken into smaller modules for on-demand learning at your own pace. So you can come back, check into it as often as you like, and really elevate yourself to the next level. You'll even receive a certificate at the end, and you can print that or share it on social media and let your clients know that you're working hard to better their service. Thank you again for tuning in. Can't wait to see what you guys come up with, and make sure you tag us on social media at On Vogue Nails Official. We'd love to see what you guys create.